At 82, I've learned a lot about life, but there's one decision I deeply regret: entering into a nursing domestic on the time. It regarded like the proper choice. My own family recommended it, promising that I'd have all the care and luxury. I wished I believed them, however. As soon as I got there, I realized that the truth changed into not anything like what I had imagined. I know lots of you is probably considering this option, whether for yourself or a loved one. Maybe you sense like it is the most secure selection, or maybe you've been informed it will make existence easier. However, earlier than you take that step, I want to share 6 matters I desire. Someone had advised me before I moved in, because the truth is, life in a nursing home isn't always pretty much convenience. It adjustments the whole lot, and after you move in, getting out isn't always as easy as you think. Live with me until the end, due to the fact some of these instructions might marvel you, and in case you know a person considering a nursing home, this video is probably genuine, what they need to pay attention before making a life-converting selection. Now let's get started. Remorse 1. Losing my independence. The largest shock after getting into a nursing domestic wasn't the small room, the set mealtimes, or maybe the unusual faces. It turned into the conclusion that I had misplaced control over my personal lifestyles before I moved in. I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, to devour, and how to spend my day. I may want to take a stroll on every occasion I desired, prepare dinner, my very own meals, or simply sit down quiet, in my favorite chair with the ebook. But within the nursing home, I quickly found out that my time turned into not my own. Everything ran on an agenda that wasn't mine. Breakfast turned into at a set time, despite the fact that I wasn't hungry. Lights out came about at a sure hour. Whether I became equipped for better, no longer want to take a stroll outdoor. You might want permission, and you'll probably must wait until someone is available to help you. Simple decisions like what to eat, or maybe what to put on, began feeling like privileges instead of fundamental alternatives. I recollect my first week there, waking up in a bed that failed to feel like mine. I sat up, stretched, and reached for the ebook. I have been reading it, Domestic, but when I seemed across the room it hit me: this wasn't my domestic. My books, my preferred chair, the little comforts I had spent years accumulating were long gone. In their place were sterile walls, a mattress I did not choose, and a feeling I could not shake. I was not in charge of my personal lifestyles. The toughest part, understanding that when you give up your independence, getting it lower back is sort of impossible. You adapt due to the fact you need to. You stop arguing when they let you know what's for dinner. You stop asking if you can move for a walk every time you need. You learn how to match into their system. However, inside the method, you start dropping yourself. If you're thinking about a nursing domestic, ask yourself, are you prepared to surrender the small freedoms that make lifestyles yours? Because as soon as they're long past, you will leave out them more than you ever idea possible. Remorse to feeling forgotten. One of the toughest truths about entering into a nursing domestic is realizing that the arena outdoor continues shifting without you. When I first arrived, my circle of relatives reassured me that they would go too often. I believed them, and in the beginning they did. My daughter came through as soon as a week. My grandchildren visited on weekends, and for a bit while it felt like I nevertheless had a connection to my old life. However, as the months went, with the aid of the visits became less common. My daughter started out calling instead of coming. My grandchildren were given busy with college and work. Holidays had been the hardest anybody promised they had come. However, by some means plans always trade on the closing minute, and I observed myself sitting alone in a not unusual room, watching other citizens stare on the door, hoping these days will be the day a person remembered them. It wasn't that my circle of relatives stopped loving me. Life simply were given in the way while you're now not around every day. It is easy for people to anticipate you are fine, that you're adjusting. What you don't need is tons attention. But the truth is, the longer you are in a nursing home, the less complicated it's miles for humans to overlook. Get simply how a great deal you continue to need them. I recall one evening sitting in my room, keeping my telephone, debating whether or not to call my son. I did not need to be a burden. I didn't need to remind him that I'd come here, looking forward to a visit that might never come. So I put the smartphone down, and that is whilst it hit me. This was my life now, watching the days move via, hoping someone would consider to include me. If you're considering entering into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how a good deal your circle of relatives loves you, once you're out of sight, it's less difficult than you believe. You studied to turn out to be out of mind. If you're nevertheless looking this video and locating these insights precious, please remark variety to underneath to allow me recognize you are right here. And if you have not subscribed, but I advocate you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't leave out any motion pictures. Now allows flow ahead. Remorse 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I turned into simply changing where I lived. I failed to comprehend. I turned into also changing why I lived at Domestic. I had duties. I had exercises, interests, and a reason to stand up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my very own espresso, tidying up my space, gave me a feel of reason. But inside the nursing home, the one's everyday rituals disappeared. Food have been made for me. Cleansing become accomplished via a person else. The plants properly, they were not mine to attend to anymore. At first I instructed myself it'd be nice to finally relax, no extra chores, no more duties, just rest. However, after some weeks, I found out something changed into lacking. The days felt long, stretched out, with not anything to do. But wait, I saw it in other citizens, to those who had, as soon as been complete of energy, now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There has been a man named George, 84 years old, who had been a woodworker his entire existence. At home he turned into constantly fixing matters, constructing little initiatives in his storage, but right here, there were no equipment, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew his hands, once sturdy and skilled, now idle, in his lap. Since vain, he instructed me one day, and I knew exactly what he intended. While you no longer have something to care for, something to paintings closer to life starts to lose its. That means the mind slows down, the frame follows, and shortly you start to sense like just some other resident in an area where time movements, but not anything, simply modifications. If you're thinking about a nursing domestic, ask yourself what gives your life meaning due to the fact after you flow in locating. Motive isn't always as simple as filling a while. It's about combating to hold directly to the things that make you feel alive. Remorse for declining health faster than predicted before. I moved right into a nursing home I become doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I may want to still cope with myself, cross for walks and prepare dinner, my very own meals. I had my little exercises that stored me, moving, grocery purchasing, stretching inside the mornings, even simply taking walks around the house to hold my legs robust. But as soon as I moved in, the entirety changed. At the start, it regarded like I became simply taking it easy. Meals had been added to me and I no longer needed to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I ought to just push a button and a person would come help. But what I did not realize was that the much less I did for myself, the weaker I have become. I stopped shifting as an awful lot, and shortly my legs felt stiffer. I sat more than I used to, and earlier than I knew it, getting up from a chair commenced feeling like a chore. The muscular tissues I had spent years retaining had been disappearing faster than I ever anticipated, and it wasn't simply me. I noticed it take place to others, to folks that walked in on their very own 2 feet, have been unexpectedly counting on wheelchairs. Folks who had once been impartial now wanted assist with things they never struggled with before. The greater assist we were given, the greater we seemed to want it. I remember my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old lady who became lively while she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility and insisting that she wasn't going to sluggish down just because of a range of. However, after a few months I observed she wasn't strolling as lots. Then she started the use of a walker, then a wheelchair. Sooner or later, she checked out me and said, I don't know whilst it came about. However, I experienced like I aged 10 years in only some months, and that is precisely what it felt like. While you prevent using your body, you begin dropping it. And in a nursing domestic in which the whole thing is designed to make matters simpler, it is easy to overlook that motion isn't always pretty much comfort. It is about surviving. If I had known how quick I would lose my strength, I might have fought harder to hold transferring, to stay energetic, to push myself even if I didn't find it irresistible. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, will you continue to have the incentive to preserve your frame strong when the whole lot is set up to make lifestyles convenient? Because after you sluggish down, getting again up is not as smooth as you suspect. If you're nonetheless watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please remark number 4 under 2. Permit me know you're here, and if you haven't subscribed, but I advise you subscribe and turn on the bell so you do not miss any motion pictures. Your help enables us preserve creating top content material to tell and inspire you. Now allows move forward. I regret 5. The loss of privateness and dignity. One of the things I didn't absolutely keep in mind before getting into a nursing home was just how a whole lot privacy I might lose at domestic. I had my very own space. I ought to close my bedroom door, sit in silence if I wanted, and do things by myself. Phrases, but in a nursing domestic, privateness is a luxury you do not constantly get to hold. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I changed into constantly being watched. The body of workers coming in and out, scheduled room assessments, and shared spaces wherein you are not often on my own, even easy. Such things as getting dressed or using the toilet regularly required a person's assistance. I recognize they have been simply doing their process. However, it's no longer clean to simply accept assist for matters you have executed independently. Your complete life. I do not forget my first week suffering with the idea that I needed to ask for permission to do matters I once did without wondering. Want to take a bath? You must wait until someone is available to help. Want to apply the restroom? Sometimes urgent. The decision button method, waiting longer than you want. Even meal choices have been constrained. If you do not like what's at the menu that day, nicely too awful. And then there was the problem of roommates. Now not everybody receives a personal room, and sharing a space with a person you failed to pick out, can be irritating. I become lucky to have a type roommate. However, I heard testimonies from others who were not so fortunate. A few had roommates who who had been loud, unclean, or maybe had cognitive problems that made sleep nearly not possible, and no matter how a whole lot you try to make your room experience like home, it's never definitely yours. Dignity is a hard element to lose, and I failed to recognize how lots of mine I should give up till I became already there, whilst human beings not, however, don't continually watch for an answer earlier than coming in whilst you're spoken to love a patient in preference to a person when your each day exercises are dictated through a schedule you failed to create it. Adjustments you begin feeling less like yourself and greater like just some other call on a listing. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to surrender the privateness and manage you've had your entire lifestyles, because once it's long gone, it's hard to get again. Remorse. 6. Understanding it's harder to go away than you think. After I first moved into the nursing home, I advised myself it become brief. I thought I'd give it an attempt, see how matters went, and if I failed to find it irresistible, I ought to constantly depart. But what I didn't realize was simply how tough it'd be to get out as soon as I became in. Before everything it seems easy. If I didn't like it, I'd just pass back domestic, but domestic wasn't the identical anymore. My residence sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became hard. My children had already commenced making changes, promoting matters they concept. I wouldn't need even considering renting out the location after I added up the concept of returning. They hesitated. Are you positive you could manipulate on your very own? Would not? Or not? It's safer to stay. We simply need what's pleasant for you. And then there was the problem of bodily decline. After months of dwelling in a place where I failed to have to cook smooth, or maybe walk very a ways, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had started out slipping away, making the idea of transferring, return domestic, greater tough than I ever imagined. I wasn't as confident in my potential to live on my own, and that fear kept me caught. I met others who had the equal enjoy the idea they had. Try the nursing domestic for a touch, even as most effective to realize that leaving wasn't as smooth as the idea. The longer you stay, the more difficult it will become to regulate to existence out of doors. A few humans even lost the option entirely. Once their home changed into bought, or their savings had been tired by means of the value of care, there has been no going back. It's the element no one tells you. Moving in seems like a choice you may opposite. However, for most human beings, it isn't. Always the nursing home slowly will become your whole global, and before you understand it, the outdoor existence you as soon as new begins feeling like a distant reminiscence. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that when you move in, leaving might not be as easy as you watched? Because once you settle in, the obstacles to leaving, whether or not financial, physical, or emotional, can be tougher to overcome than you anticipate. If you're nonetheless watching this video and finding those insights treasured, please comment number 6 below to allow me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed, but I propose you subscribe and activate the bell so that you don't miss any films. Your assist allows us continue developing precise content to tell and encourage us. Final thoughts. Searching again, I don't remorse growing older. However, I do regret believing that a nursing home became my best choice. I walked in awaiting comfort, safety, and a higher excellence of existence. What I discovered as an alternative become a global that slowly took away my independence, my privateness, my cause, or even my sense of self. Does that imply nursing houses are all bad? No longer necessarily. A few human beings actually want the extent of care they offer, but earlier than you're making that choice, suppose carefully approximately what you are giving up, because after you move in, lifestyles will by no means be the equal. If I may want to do it over, I would have fought more difficult to stay in my very own home, explored extra approaches to get help without giving up my freedom, and made positive I truly had to be there earlier than making one of these permanent flow. And in case you're going through this choice, I desire you make an effort to ask yourself, is that this sincerely what is nice for me, or is it just what appears simplest proper now? Because the life you've got nowadays, your exercises, your independence, your choices is well worth preserving directly to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to listen from you. Leave a comment beneath and percentage one thing you discovered today and how you propose to use it on your existence. Your mind are vital to us, so do not hesitate to proportion them. Studying your feedback offers us great motivation and encouragement. In case you loved this video and discovered it beneficial, please like, subscribe, and percentage. Your help enables us keep creating right content material to inform and inspire you. Thank you for looking, and we look ahead to seeing you in the next video.